All right. This week in history is a challenging series of questions this week, which I am putting to Dan Barrett to really inspire those around us. What am I talking about? On April 29, 1953, tonight's episode of Space Patrol on Los Angeles ABC affiliate KECA-TV is notable for being which TV first?
I'm not really too sure at all. I've also never heard of Space Patrol. I'm going to put it out there that maybe it's the first live scripted drama.
Ooh. No, that happened well before that, I would say. This is actually the first experimental 3D TV broadcast in the United States.
Oh, you know what, Simon? You've done this trivia before. Like, at least probably...
No, I haven't.
Are you sure? I'm sure I've heard experimental 3D on this pod before.
Yes, no, I think we have mentioned it before, but it was actually done at an annual gathering of broadcasters, the National Association of Radio and Television Broadcasters, their 31st annual gathering, and they did it to see exactly how 3D might work in a TV environment. They had the old paper glasses on with the red and blue lens, so it would have been quite the thrill. Let's move on to the next question. April 30th, 1959, which iconic veggie-based character is the first toy to be advertised on TV on this day?
Well, I mean, how many vegetable-based characters are there that are iconic from the 1950s? Like, this has got to be Mr. Potato Head, surely.
It is absolutely Mr. Potato Head. It was the first ever televised toy commercial, and what was different about it was that toy advertising was around, but it was always geared towards the toy buyer, the adult, and this was the first one that was aimed directly at children, so kids could run off and scream at their parents, I want Mr. Potato Head. So that's kind of a big deal too. May 1st, 1978. Who says May 1? The film Snake in the English Shadow is released in Hong Kong to blockbuster numbers, launching the career of which action superstar?
Look, I don't know his career that well, which is shameful, and I certainly don't know this movie, but I kind of feel this is going to be Jackie Chan, correct?
Absolutely Jackie Chan. He'd made some films before that, but this was the first one which really showed his sort of slapstick approach to comedy. It redefined the structure of martial arts movies coming out of that territory. And it sort of introduced the world to that comic character who wasn't afraid to be a bit silly, but still doing amazing stunts and stunt work. So that's the Jackie Chan I was going to mention for those earlier in the podcast who may have heard it. So that is this week's In History, but that only means we roll on to the very exciting birthday quiz.
No, not happy birthday. No, not that. Please, no, not happy birthday.
Play the clip.
Alrighty, Dan Barrett. This is a bit of a mixed up one. It is about the title of these actors' movies. See if you can put it together. April 28th, 1981, Jessica Alba. Beautiful one. Also April 28, 1974, Penelope Cruz. Beautiful woman. April 29, 1954, a comedian called Jerry Seinfeld. And then on April 1st, 1988, bringing the quiz into the current generation, Nicholas Braun, who we know as Cousin Greg from the Succession series. So there's quite a mix of birthday buddies this week. How might they be connected in the titles of some of their works?
Okay, so I can't completely finish this out because I can only really do two of these, but I think I'm on the right wavelength here. And it helps that Jerry Seinfeld has been in so very few things. Unrelated, yes. I was watching an episode of Benson about a week or two ago. I found it on a streaming service somewhere, and I went hunting down one of the episodes where Jerry Seinfeld was a semi-regular, and they had him in maybe like 3 or 4 episodes. The idea was that if the character was popular, they'd keep him around. The character wasn't popular, and his performance in it is kind of terrible. But anyway, it was fun seeing him in there as a very young Jerry Seinfeld in the early to mid 80s.
One of my favorite parts of Seinfeld was when he's reading his alumni book, and it says, and he shot a pilot for NBC, which was not picked up.
Yeah. Okay, so look, Jerry Seinfeld, very few titles specifically. Nicholas Braun, fairly early in his career, so there's a limited number of titles there as well. Where I think
Yep.
we're heading here is Nicholas Braun was in a movie called Cat Person. Jerry Seinfeld was in B Movie, BEE, and presumably Jessica Alba and Penelope Cruz have similar titles that we can lean into here.
You're very close. That was a path I was going down early on. It was a very tough week to put the quiz together this week, despite having some pretty incredible names. We had Michelle Pfeiffer in there. We had Daniel Day-Lewis, but I couldn't quite match them all up. But these four actors have all starred
I know for a fact that Nicholas Braun never appeared in an episode of Benson, because Benson was well and truly cancelled by the time Nicholas Braun was born.
Exactly right. No, this is the food and drink edition of the birthday quiz. All these movies have food or drink in their title. Jessica Alba in the film Honey.
Mm-hmm.
Penelope Cruz in her breakout film Jamon Jamon, which of course you know is Spanish for ham.
Of course.
Or ham. Jerry Seinfeld, comedians in Cars with Coffee. And Nicholas Braun starred alongside, or when I say starred, co-starred opposite Tina Fey in Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. So the food and drink edition of the birthday quiz is now complete.
I mean, there's certainly whiskey in the title. It's not like it was actually whiskey, though. It was really just a call sign. But anyway, Simon, let's finish this podcast out, shall we?
We really should finish it out. Screen Watching is available on Facebook at Screen Watching Podcast, on Threads and YouTube at Screen Watching. Give us an email at screenwatchingpodcast@gmail.com and we'll read it out here. And, of course, you can see us across all your favoured podcasting platforms.
Indeed. Do you want to promote Screenspace, your own website?
Yes, screen-space.net is where I do all my long-form film journalism, which is a lot more exciting than it sounds. I'll be posting some fresh stuff along there this week, and lots of things going on in the world of film. We're heading into the American summer movie season, so there'll be plenty to chat about. Plus,
Simon,
the card film. There will be. Dan,
is there though? No,
things to
seriously.
chat about.
I sat down and I was trying to work out what the upcoming movies were. This is the emptiest summer season I've seen in some time. The strikes have really impacted. Yes.
We've got a new Ryan Reynolds. We can't say that in the week that the Deadpool versus Wolverine was dropped and that Planet of the Apes screening news came through.
Okay, sure. And also I haven't got screeners for Planet of the Apes, which I'm very upset about. But that's neither here nor there. It might be another few days for me. Brisbane's a bit behind. But if you go through, there's quite longer stints without a big release movie coming through. It's just emptier than it usually is.
We kind of knew that was happening, though. I mean, that was coming out of.
And why are you feigning anger just a moment ago? There's fewer big Hollywood movies this year.
I never feign anger. I'm always angry. Don't worry about that. Screen-space.net is where you can read my angry writings. What do you do with your time?
With my time, a lot of just Zen meditation largely. But when I'm not doing that, I send out a newsletter each morning. It's called Always Be Watching. Find that one at alwaysbewatching.com. It's got the big stories in streaming and movies and anything that you're watching on your screens. Things that you're watching. It's right there on the title.
Oh, well, let's wrap this podcast up. It seems like it's gone on for an eternity. And I've loved it. It's been a good podcast, but boy, I age as a person through these.
Look, it has certainly been a podcast. Folks, we'll be back next week with more of this Dog and Pony show. I'm Dog, he's Pony. We'll see you next week. We only get that effect because we put some peanut butter in Simon's teeth every time before we start shooting. Anyway, folks, we're back next week.